uses a lightsaber all of a sudden. So, we will do our best to have a little conversation with DD and JP and see if the line legal can help out, because we have lawyers and paralegals now that have nothing better to do than fight for the people's human rights so that this doesn't happen anymore. This is ridiculous. Enough is enough! Enough is enough. One of our good men who are here that have worked with us tirelessly to work with us with the criminal code accusations with regards to domestic terrorism and his hoax regarding terrorism in section 83. You might remember Jack Moran. Put your hands together for Jack. Good luck getting up here, Jack.
Tommy Rogers 3 now.
Here you go, my friend.
Go to my channel.
Thank you.
Yeah? Do you break them up?
I am speaking to the police.
Oh, yeah. Tommy Rogers? Yeah, R-O-G-G.
My lawful excuse for being here is for safeguarding the fundamental rights
Number 2 is in
guaranteed by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Human Rights Code. I'll say that again. I'm speaking to the police. My lawful excuse for being here is for safeguarding the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Human Rights Code.
Yes, sir!
I'm speaking to the police. Section 1.2 of the Police Services Act requires you to be safeguarding the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Human Rights Code. My lawful excuse for being here,
Never look behind you. No.
and I'm sorry to say, you're not doing your job. I shouldn't be here asking you to do your job. I understand it's difficult, but it's misconduct. And if you're obeying somebody that's telling you to do otherwise, they're committing misconduct. Section 8081 of the Police Services Act. Because there's equality, equal benefit of the law, and equal protection of the law in the Charter, Section 15, I ask you to arrest your fellow officer who takes you away from safeguarding the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Human Rights Code. Police, will you please safeguard the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Human Rights Code? As you can see, I'm begging. Because I had to beg, just as an abused victim has to beg for the abuser to stop abusing them, you must now either detain and question and charge the Lieutenant Governor and Premier for criminal code violations I am talking about, or I'm sorry to say you must be criminally and civilly responsible for every amount of pain and suffering since March 17, 2020, and the cost is in the billions of dollars, if not trillions. So either you, the police, and I'm sorry to speak this way, or the Lieutenant Governor and Premier are committing reckless endangerment of children, child abuse, elder abuse, healthy people abuse, inhumane acts on civilian populations, which is a crime against humanity, bodily harm, failing to obey a statute, and torture. Let me just talk about torture just for 1 second. All the elements of torture have been satisfied. Isolation, monopolization of perception, humiliation and degradation, exhaustion, threats, occasional indulgences, demonstrating omnipotence and forcing trivial demands. Over 30 30 institutions and offices around the world have been queried through Freedom of Information requests for records containing proof of the alleged SARS-CoV-2 virus, if it in fact exists. The responses have yielded in total no records. Ontario public health officials have zero legitimate evidence to support their story of a COVID-19 virus, let alone a COVID-19 pandemic. The virus is unproven and purely theoretical. They have committed fraud on the population. I want to quote an Ontario.ca website. Deaths are included whether or not COVID-19 was determined to be a contributing or underlying cause of death, as indicated in the IPHSI field type of death. So there's no question. Who said this? There is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases. The thing we're extraordinarily confident about is that we're going to see this in the next few years. That's Dr. Fauci. I'm talking to the police. Section 83.01, bracket 1, bracket B, and section 83.231, bracket 1, domestic terrorism and hoax regarding terrorism. The accused, which I'm accusing the Lieutenant Governor and Premier, did cause public intimidation with regards to its security, including economic security, causing persons to do or refrain from doing any act, such as freedom of assembly, freedom of the right to gaining of a livelihood, freedom to not breathe in one's own carbon dioxide, among other things. This recklessly endangered the lives of children, elderly, the vulnerable, and the healthy segment of the population. The accused, Lieutenant Governor and Premier, also caused serious disruption and interference of essential services. The accused never supplied sworn records or sworn proof of the criteria for a declaration of emergency and never disclosed which resources or which circumstances existed in section 7.0.1 bracket 3 number 2. It is deemed to be a hoax without such sworn under oath demonstrably justified proof as required by section 1 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They acted with intention and wanton and reckless disregard for the lives of the population, causing severe hardships, reckless child endangerment, and suicides. I know someone who committed suicide a few months ago. The report on the 129-day declaration of emergency did not divulge the criteria and circumstances for the declaration of emergency, nor was it ever divulged under oath to the population at any other point. It can be easily said that the resources in question in section 7.0.1 bracket 3 subparagraph 2 were staples and paper clips. The accused failed to disclose sworn records containing proof that the alleged SARS-CoV-2 virus in fact exists. Deaths are included whether or not COVID was determined to be a contributing or underlying cause of death. I again ask the police to detain and question the Lieutenant Governor for Section 126, disobeying a statute. Section 218, reckless endangerment of children. Section 245, for forcing anybody, including children, to breathe in carbon dioxide. Section 269.1, torture, and Section 83.01 and Section 83.231, terrorism and hoax. Thank you.
Wow, Jack, amazing work. That's why we need guys like that, because as soon as I started hearing those numbers, I'm gone. I couldn't study, couldn't do any of that kind of work. It's amazing.